Developments in food industry. In this video, we will look at the developments in the food industry through the history pages. Food science is the oldest science which dates back to 100,000 years ago. In the Old Stone Age, men used to store food in the back of caves. As men entered in Middle Stone Age, they developed techniques like drying fish, boiling, and storing food for later. As the New Stone Age began, alcoholic and acetic fermentation processes were being used. Baking of leavened bread also started in Iran around 6000 BC. In the Bronze period, men were using techniques like filtration and flotation. They were baking bread, preparing cakes, fermenting grapes, and brewing cereals. They also developed flavoring. With the beginning of Iron Age, developments in agriculture took place, especially under the Romans. They started using brine and syrups for preserving purposes. They also started making cheese and vinegar. Nicolas Appert, a Paris confectioner and distiller, is known as the father of canning. He invented this technique without knowing the science behind it. In June 1810, he published the first book on food processing, the Book of All Household. He described 4 steps: placing the food in the bottles, closing the bottles with utmost care, putting them in boiling water for a certain time and temperature, and then removing the bottles from water bath. Let's have a look at some other developments in food industry. Cold storage and freezing technology. Vikings and Scandinavians used to store fish in ice. This technology is also known by the Chinese since 800 BC. In 1800s, ice-salt mixture was also being used for freezing. However, in 1913, home refrigerator was built. Clarence Birdseye invented quick freezing process and equipment in 1929. In 1939, fridge with freezing compartment was invented. Sun drying and air drying has been used for centuries. However, around 19th century dehydration equipment was built. In this process, vacuum is created which enables the removal of moisture from food without loss of quality. Freeze drying was invented in Paris in 20th century. This process involves sublimation of ice from frozen food. It is helpful in heat-sensitive food. For example, coffee, instant tea, etc. History suggests that pounding, grinding between stones, and pestle and mortar have been used for milling purposes. Milling was modernized in 1588 with the invention of Romelli's hand mill. It was seen that roller mills were employed in Hungary by 1849. After this, European and Englishmen constantly developed it for use at a larger scale. We can say that flour milling was first food industry to be modernized. X-rays and radioactivity was discovered in the middle of 19th century. However, it was used in food processing in the mid-20th century. In 1930, application of X-rays were first used to prolong shelf life of food in France.